In the tapestry of life, where every thread holds a story, America in Black and White emerges as a haven for the voices echoing through the heart of our communities. In this podcast, we wade through the rivers of our collective experiences, celebrating the vibrant hues of change brought forth by the whispers of hope and the roars of action. It's more than just a conversation. It's a journey into the heart of our society, illuminated by the light of those daring to dream and do. Join us, and let your voice be the melody that guides us toward a dawn where every color finds its place in the masterpiece of our shared destiny. Together, let's paint a future brimming with the positives that dwell in our minds and the actions that shape our world.
Good evening and welcome to America in Black and White. Tonight we shine a spotlight on a man whose mission is to transform lives through education, empowerment, and inspiration. Our guest is a four-time author, international speaker, educator, and consultant whose career spans over 15 years. He has trained countless professionals, guided entrepreneurs, and helped businesses grow revenue and retain customers through his proprietary 4P framework. His latest book, Better Questions, Better Clients, challenges us to rethink how we communicate and connect. Bruce Hill believes that one new skill can change your life, and tonight we'll explore how his journey, his work, and his vision continue to impact communities and inspire change. Please welcome Bruce Hill. Hello, sir. Hello. Mr. Hill. Mr. Hill?
Second time.
Okay, you're here.
Thank you for that great intro. I heard every word. I appreciate the opportunity to serve. Let's keep going.
Yes, sir. Is there anything that you would like to say to our audience before we get going into the show?
In my life philosophy, what I try and practice, what I preach, what I teach is that one new skill will change your life. And one of the best things I've learned was just how to ask better questions.
Well, let me just start here. I see there's already a question here or a comment here in the chat from Mr. Jody Jobs. I'm sorry. Says hello, Charles King. Hello, how are you? Welcome to the show, and please enjoy. Um, Bruce, I want to start, with your life story in early years, so our audience can get some idea and more some framework as of you, the individual that you are, and how you got to be, where you are today. Um, can you tell us? First, we're going to start with your upbringing. What experiences shaped your early outlook on life?
There's two things that stand out. My father and my mother were the integral part of raising me. I had three siblings, or have three siblings, and they're still alive and well. And they taught us to go find out. I think that's the first thing. And I would ask a question. I say, hey, why does this work? Or why does this go that way? They said, man, that's a really good question, Bruce. Why don't you go find out? And some of y'all may be too young to remember this. We had a set of Encyclopedia Britannicas. Right? So you go and flip through there and you find something. And I say to learn more, go to this one. So you go get the other book and flip through there. And so being curious, right? Looking for answers. And the second thing was, hey, try it. Whether that was swimming, piano, bass. They say, yeah, let's give it a try, and giving me permission and freedom to explore. I think those are some very the entrepreneur.
Mm. Also, Jody just put another comment in here, and Jody says, "Hi, Bruce."
Hey, Jody Dubs.
And so, who were your biggest influences growing up?
One of my favorite quotes. He said, "I inspired me." I always preach my dad showing me that compassion can be a part of your lifestyle. It doesn't have to be a weakness. Um, I always thank my brother for just being unapologetically himself. And one of the things I really appreciate and I give myself credit for is saying, hey, whoever I am today is just a small. And again, that's that one new skill will change your life. And so I've always looked back and been impressed that I had the audacity to say, hey, I want to grow. I want to evolve. I want to change for the better.
Okay. So how did early education prepare you for your career path?
I don't know if it did. I don't know if it did. I think learning is valuable. We have to be careful that we spend more time learning than we spend doing. Um, if you had to learn or do, I think doing is the best way to gain experience. Now, learning by experience can be very expensive. It can get you in a lot of trouble. And of applying what we learn as quickly as possible, not a test after months or the end of the quarter semester, but an active and ongoing learning. I love to do as a maybe a college professor. I teach almost once a week, but going back and helping those young minds get a better control of their future, and that's the biggest thing I would change is less learning and more doing.
Mm. So in saying though that you don't think that your education prepared you, for your career path, what are some of the things, or what did prepare you for your career path?
Yeah, that's a much better question. So just to give you context, I studied Spanish literature and mathematics at university level. I also was on the engineering track till some life events happened. So now, as a sales professional, I work in the HR space as well as business consulting with emphasis on sales processes and sales operations and training. Where's the connection there, right? How did mathematics prepare me to coach, to train, to lead? On the process of learning and teaching you how to study and teaching you to be disciplined. But that wasn't because I went to school. That's something that happened while I was in school. So valuable were those soft skills that we learned along the way. Goal setting, organization, planning your day out, networking, right? Connecting with other people, those interpersonal communication skills. So those things I learned along the way, those soft skills have been so impactful to my success as an entrepreneur. And that's where, again, I created this business. It's New Skills, New You. And that's why I truly believe one new skill will change your life. Not one new historical fact, not one new equation or formula, not one new coding language, but those skills that transform who you are as a person. That's what happens then. Now we start to change the world. And that's why we're
Mm.
here, right?
Oh yeah, most definitely, most definitely. What challenges did you face in your formative years, and how did you overcome them?
You, you know, I felt discouraged and lost because I didn't know what I wanted to be when I grew up. And it's really easy to sit still, right? I don't know where to go, so I'm not going to go anywhere.
Mhm.
I don't know what, so I'm not going to do anything. So this is my advice to you, and whether you're 28 or 98, I want you to explore safely, but I want you to explore, try new things, try them for at least 90 days. I had a friend of mine. She's a CPA, right? Black woman, a CPA. There's single digit number of those in the U.S. So really proud of her for that accomplishment. Well, she's trying new things. She tried some CrossFit. She got into shape. And then she's like, well, I'm going to try something else. She's going, I had the pleasure of seeing one of her first stand-up routines. She's doing comedy. Those things. Does she like them? Hey, she doesn't know yet. She's trying them. And I did the same thing. I've run races. I've learned instruments. I actually have done stand-up comedy and improv comedy. Why? I want you to explore the world and all it has to offer and find out what you like. You're not born liking one thing. You find it along the way. Go volunteer. And I've given hours at soup kitchens and bags for homeless. It's not to brag. It's to give you permission to go try some things, and preferably some things that make the world a better place.
So just in doing those things, because I think that's a great thing to explore, and that's a great way to explore how to get to where you want to be. But when you was doing all of those things, were you already knowledgeable in these areas, or were these areas that you was just curious to see how they worked and you wanted to operate?
Mhm. Hey, another great question. I believe curiosity is a skill. It's something you can practice, something you can develop and grow. So imagine this: when you were born, how much did you know? Right? What languages did you speak? What instruments could you play? Right? What computer programs were you good at? You start from scratch. You start from blank, and so that means everything I know today on the way. Somewhere along the way, after maybe high school, university, it could be different places for different people. We stop learning and we stop experimenting. We stop being curious and we stop trying things. So I had this very simple theory. I was like, well, if I can learn how to walk, talk, cook, read, what else can I learn? And so that's where I did just start trying things. And what happened, it was over here, it was over there, it was over here, it was over there. And it started narrowing it down and started narrowing down, it started narrowing down. And so now I show development, but really the only thing I study, practice, and teach is asking better questions. That didn't happen overnight or over a week or even a month. It's been over a decade of exploring and narrowing down, and maybe a lifetime if I look back. So your question is a good one. Well, what happened here to get you there? Everything. Another quote, the same artist, same Chicago poet, everything I'm not made me everything I am. There's opportunities that I missed, some because I didn't have access to the opportunity, some because of decisions I made. But those led me on the path to create today. So it gives me a lot of gratitude for today.
So you mentioned a key word that actually caught my ear. You mentioned professional development. Can you tell us, when it comes to professional development, how did that actually get to this point that was the thing that just captivated you?
Okay, man, another wonderful question. King, I like how your mind works. So shout out to my mom. She loves to read. So guess what? I like to read. And a lot of people are like, oh, I don't really like to read. I can't have time. Check this out. After high school, the average American reads 0.8 books a year after they graduate high school. Okay. So let's do the math on that. That means they're either not finishing a book in any given year, or it takes them 5 years to read 4 books, right? 5 times 0.8 is 4. So all you have to do to be above average is read 1 book. Well, you're like, oh, well, Bruce, I'm busy. You don't understand. It's hard. Hey, check this out. The average professional development book has about 210 pages in it. Stay with me. We're going to do a little math. Maybe it did come in handy. It's got 210 pages in it. All right, that's a lot of pages. All you have to do is read 7 pages a day. Depending on your skill level, I've got a good friend of mine, is mildly dyslexic. It might take him 10 or 15 minutes, okay? It might take you 10 minutes or even 7 minutes. Let's call it 10 minutes. Stay with me. 10 minutes. I'm going to read 7 pages. 7 pages every day for a month. Boom, that's 1 book. That's pretty straightforward, right? Now, wait a minute. That's just 1 month. So are you telling me all I got to do is read 7 pages today? I can read 12 books in a year. Now, here's what happens. If you choose those books carefully, maybe you study leadership, maybe you study communication, maybe some discipline, maybe you learn sales or you learn business. You will absolutely transform your life when you apply it. Okay. Don't go around here collecting knowledge like you're a historian. It's the people that apply the knowledge that change the world. So now I realize my professional development can be intentional. I speed this up. So I read more often. I got coaches. And again, I applied what I learned. That's where I started to see the quantum leap. You start to apply what you learn.
Mhm.
So the development is what gives me the confidence to say, hey, man, King invites me to his podcast. Thank you for the opportunity to serve. What am I going to talk about? Am I going to be nervous? No, I've been practicing. I'm ready. That's professional development in action.
Okay. So when did you first realize you had a gift for teaching and inspiring others?
That's a great question. I've had single digits. I always joke. I'm blessed to be 40 years young, January 26th. Okay. I've been teaching and speaking for years. It wasn't until recently. Yeah, I started early. It wasn't until recently, though, I realized people get paid for this.
Mhm.
So, wait a minute, I've been doing this for free. And so I realized when someone said, man, Bruce, thank you so much for helping me. I used what you taught me and I got my dream job. How much do I owe you?
Mm.
I was like, I don't know, $100. How much is it's $100, right? That's what I said. So they said, they was excited to pay me. I was like, hey, here you go. And there's three things I want you to take from that. One, okay, first of all, I don't do career coaching. Okay. I do professional development that's going to help you in your career. I don't do career coaching. I've got some partners to recommend if you need some help in your career. There's three things though. When we talk about sales, it's actually really simple. Give people what they want. They'll be happy to pay you. People are going to be happy to buy too. When you give people a clear path from where they are and where they want to go, there's a transformation there. There's a business there. And three, that was the instant. That was the moment. Over 10 years ago, that's where I became an entrepreneur. I didn't grow up becoming an entrepreneur. I wasn't surrounded by business owners. It happened because I was adding value in art. And that's when I realized I was like, oh, I might be okay at this. And then I went to get better and better and better.
Mhm. How did your
And I'm still getting better.
background in sales lead you to a broader professional development work?
You cannot accidentally be good at sales. Sales
Mhm.
puts you in front of three things that human beings genetically, biologically dislike. It's uncertainty, it's judgment, and rejection. No one wakes up and is like, man, I really want to get rejected today. And I want to be very clear, I was not good at sales. I was pretty terrible at sales.
Mhm.
I only got good at sales, at selling, and at teaching sales because I got fired. No, everybody asks, well, what did you do? Okay. The whole business was sold. We were running lending branches for this banking company. They sold that business division. We had to go find jobs. And I asked my friend, better questions get you better clients, right? I asked my friend, I said, hey, if I work harder, I want to get paid more. Or if I do more, I want to make more. What do I do? He's like, well, that sounds like people always give you advice from where they are in their life. So if you like their life, take their advice. If you don't like their life, don't take their advice. He told me, he's like, you got to go sell cars. So I've never sold cars before. I've never really sold a whole bunch of anything before, but I needed something different. And so I know I had to take some different actions to get some different results, right?
Mhm.
What's insanity? Doing the same thing over and over again and expecting different results. So I had to do something different. So I went to go sell and I was mediocre. Okay. I wasn't a sales superstar from day one. The difference between a successful fill in the blank sales, musician, speaker, trainer, entrepreneur, business, it's how about proving. So I
Mhm.
was forced into sales. That decision, I was going to starve. when my mentor says it has to work or it has to work. And so I said, well, how do I get better? And that's where I became, if I'm teaching and training, right? It wasn't on accident. It
Mhm.
was on
So,
purpose.
So, with the sales background and learning to do sales in that manner, and when it came to teaching, what was it in the sales background that enabled you to basically transform this into a process to help these people in a learning experience? Because that's truly, I think, a great skill.
That I couldn't agree more. That will go backwards to go forward. Remember, I told you I've been speaking for 30 years. Well, what's a 10-year-old, what's a 9-year-old talking about? And our parents had us teach in, for country folks, they might know something called 4-H. And it's a leadership development program for children, particularly in rural areas. And so that's where I was teaching, and they had curriculums. So I had to follow the curriculum. And then I would do Bibles classes and study schools. And what I realized, it doesn't matter how smart you are or think you are, if you can't make it simple enough for the person you're talking to understand. So when we're talking about kids, it's got to be simple. They don't have any preconceived notions. They don't have any context to work on. You've got to bring it all the way forward. My success came from making the process as simple as possible. Well, that makes it easy to understand. That gives you clarity. Clarity creates confidence. Confidence closes deals. Now all of a sudden, every single person I trained for that role hit President's Club within 18 months. There was almost one except transferred to another department, but guess what? He hit President's Club over there. So I was like, yes, my streak's alive. And that's really the secret of my success, is simplifying it. Not always easy, right? Simple. That's what makes a good trainer. That's what makes a good coach. How can you help me get it? Not impress me. All the bookifications, degrees, that don't help me. What do I need to do? What's my action step today? If you make that part simple, you're going to see results for your clients. You're going to see results in your life. And guess what? People are just going to call on you. And that's a good place to be. Now I'm not chasing people call me. Oh man, that's beautiful.
Well, that process that you're saying about keeping it simple, that's a thing that we use in the military. I always say, keep it simple, stupid. That's what they say. Keep it simple. As long as you keep it simple, we good. When you start oversimplifying and you start making things a little bit too complex, then a lot of people are not going to comprehend that. So I appreciate that process, because that's got to be really, really interesting, as to how you're able to break that down as far as you can. I really do appreciate that, and I would love listening on one of your classes.
You know what? That's been a big request to do virtual ones. I'll make sure you get invite to virtual ones. We start hosting those here.
Oh wow, I would appreciate that. What personal values guide your journey?
I don't know if I've been asked that question, or at least in some time. Thank you. A big one for me is grow. Everything in the universe is in motion. Is arrogant of us, or even foolish, to try and stay the same, to remain in a place piece. And I don't want you to change who you are, just to grow who you are. That's the first one. That's how I live in my life. That's what I share. Number two is add value. There's everything operates in a cycle. So let's just use trees, a real simple one, right? They take in carbon dioxide, expel oxygen. What do humans do? Take in oxygen, expel carbon dioxide. There's a cycle there. And for you to be a part of the cycle, so that money flows, you have to add value. You can't sit around waiting for people to pay you, or because I've been doing this for 30 years. What value are you adding? And that's not just in a business sense. That's giving back to people you care about, to your family, to people who can't pay you. I think one of the big reasons to be successful is being able to help people and say, hey, don't worry about it. You can keep it. And then the third thing is, let's see, how do I explain this? It's to be present. That's actually a really tough one for me, but I've been living that more and more, because I have goals, I have ambitions, but the most valuable thing I have right now is the present. And so it'll be growth, be add value, and be present.
So, what was well, actually, was there a defining moment that shifted your career trajectory?
Just one? There's multiple pivot points. We could talk about when I got kicked out of school the second time, right? We can talk about when they sold the company and we didn't have a job. We can talk about when I was doing well, leading a team, and then they had layoffs. We could talk about when I tried to work in a startup and it failed. Um, all of those moments, good, bad, or other, have been defining points in the journey. Again, everything I'm not makes me everything I am. The most recent one I would like to share is when I decided. We're just on the exit. This was a successful exit, but I didn't have any work. And it took 700 applications before I finally got an interview. And those 700 applications took 14 months.
Wow.
And so there is a period where you can go get it. And so that moment was a very quiet moment. Could have been a Tuesday, could have been a Wednesday, like this. I'm not going to wait for someone to pay me. I'm going to go add value. And so people are excited to pay me. And that was when I became a full-time entrepreneur. Now, I do have a career currently, and I may go back to full-time one of these days. So my mission isn't to my with you say, hey, your life changes when you decide it does. And that was one for me where I had to decide, like, man, I'm gonna sit around and wait. I didn't know it was gonna be 700 applications. I didn't know it was gonna be 14 more months. But at that moment, I said, man, I'm gonna wait for that period into the future. And I'm glad I didn't, because man, I'd be up a creek without a paddle if I sat around and waited. You got to take control of your future today.
So, how did your family and community support your ambitions?
I want to shout out to my mom, my first investor. She helped, but even that was after I had some success, and that's no disrespect to her. People like to see success. They like to have confidence that what they're paying for is going to work, whether that is a client or an investor. And so then someone might say, well, you got here, mom helped you, giving me that same $500, and I could have gone and bought a video game system, right?
Mhm.
So then whose fault would it be that was it my mom? She gave me some money,
No.
but it's how you use it.
Mhm.
So I've got to shout her out. We got to shout out my dad. He's like, hey, whatever you do, just do your best. What do they say? With all your might, right? And then, man, shout out to Colin White of Blue Gopher out of Columbus, Ohio. Probably one of the only people that dreams bigger than I do. Shout out to Andre C. Hatchett, the leader that creates other leaders. And he's one that does not take any excuses. Okay, if you want to complain, don't call him. So they've been huge in my success and my journey. And then shout out to my partner, Shakita. I love you. She's been so huge and reminding me to rest and reset and being part of those big adventures. So yeah, man, I'm blessed to have a really great circle.
Mhm. So, what advice would you give young people starting their careers today?
There's two pieces of advice I'm gonna share. If you're starting your career again, whether you're 21, if you're like, where do I go from here? I want you to find unusual combinations. It's very unlikely that you're going to invent anything new, but it's very likely you can find new combinations for old problems. And that's going to allow you to absolutely change the world with what you have. So you don't have to wait for someone's permission to change the world. You can change the world today by finding new combinations of things we're already using. Um, the second thing is never stop growing. Part of that is learning, but more of that is doing. So if you want to be an influencer, Figure out how to add the most value and be the best influencer. Sometimes that's somebody who edits, adds captions, does audio. Sometimes you're not going to be the face, and you're going to be even more successful because now you can serve 10, 20, 100 people instead of doing your attention is a valuable currency. So I challenge you to learn communication and practice communication. If you can communicate effectively, you can tackle 80% of what the world throws at you. The other 20% is going to be having, so let's call it three: innovate, communicate, and network. That'll get you very far. And notice none of that's AI. None of that's involves about having a whole lot of money. It helps, but it ain't good.
So so as we learn, about Bruce Hill, so as I'm listening to you, I take away from learning some things about you is that you're resilient, you're curious, you always want to have the ability to grow, and you always put the mind forward as to being forward thinking, shall I say, in all of your processes that you do. In doing that, what are some of the other things that you want our audience to take from what when Bruce Hill just described the things that he does and who he was, who he is now because of where he was? What are some of those things that you want them to be able to just take a grasp of, learn from those things, maybe put them in little different pea pods or whatever have you, and grow them however they need to grow them? But what do you want them to get?
I teach a course on goal planning. So there's goal setting is real easy. I want to make $1 million. Yeah, that sounds great. I want abs, right? I want to, million followers on TikTok. Okay. Goal setting is really easy. From this, I want you to get good at goal planning. It's very simple. I can tell you in one sentence. Figure out what the smallest action step is today and do it. Okay. And when I say action step, that doesn't mean reading about it, watching a video about it, listening to a podcast about it, getting a coach about it. What's the action step that I can do today? So let's say you want 1 million followers on TikTok. All right. Now it's 2026. Folks, that's a priority for a lot of folks. Go live and talk about something they want to hear. And then a lot of people stop there. Some people never get started. So you're already ahead of the game. Some people stop there and then go tell somebody. The number one thing you can do to grow your business, whether that's your social media, a business, your career, is tell people what you do. Say, hey, Charles reached out to me. He said, hey, Bruce, I have this amazing podcast. I believe I can change the world. Will you be a guest? Absolutely. How do you do it? He asked. I unfortunately hadn't found it. And so Charles sat around waiting for people to call him, and people will because he's consistent, but he is proactive. That's it. So what can I do today? That's a step forward to that goal. That's goal planning. And you do that every single day for the rest of the, until you decide to change the goal, you will be more successful than everyone around you.
Wow.
That's it. So I told you how to read 12 books in a year. Same thing with followers. It's the same things with your business. It's the same thing with insert goal here. One new skill will change your life, man.
Yeah, it will. Let's transition over to your career as an educator and trainer. How did you transition from sales into
Mhm.
education and training?
I had an opportunity. Let's go back to selling cars. And keep in mind, while I do offer some sales training, I'm not going to teach you to sell cars. Okay? I'm going to teach you to ask better questions. That's going to help you in every area of your life or business. So I was selling cars, and they were like, hey, Bruce, this guy needs some help. I was like, okay, I'll try and help him out. And I watched him, and I was like, man, this guy's good. Stats, and he had better stats than I did. But I just like, wait a minute, why are they asking me to help? And I looked, and he sold less cars than I did. Now he was more efficient, so if he talked to 3 people, he might sell a car. That's really good. but he sold less cars than I did. Why? What happened? He didn't talk to enough people. And that was a really powerful moment for me, that no matter how good, bad, or getting there, or you are, if you don't talk to enough people, you're not going to have the success you want. And anyway, that's interviews, whether that's followers in interview. So I said, okay, well, how do I that are smart as him, that are talented as him, that work as hard as I do? And that's where I became a trainer. It's quite accidental. So I wrote down all the things he did really well. And then I looked, I said, which one of these am I doing? Which one of these am I not doing? Now, guess what? Now I have a process. And so that next month was one of my best months to date. And they're like, Bruce, what happened? I said, well, here's the process. He said, will you share this with the rest of the store? I said, sure. That's where you become a sales trainer. You create a process. So now, okay, so I moved from selling cars. I went to security for home and small business. I had to create a process. And then I moved to outside sales, business to business, and I led a team there. I had to create a business. Then I moved to a SaaS company. First thing I did was create a process. And so I got really good at creating processes, and that's why I created my Better Questions framework. So you have a process. I can take almost any business, any professional service business, a SaaS business, and I can help them see increase in as little as 90 days because I found a process. That's all it's been. It's always been the simplest step or steps to achieve this goal. Period.
Well, Bruce, as I listened to you just now explain that, because this is really, really interesting, is that what I'm learning more and more is that not only are you very analytical, but your critical thinking skills are off the chart. So, can you tell us, how are you processing this information like that? Because again, this is something that's I call that special. I'm just going to be honest with you. I call that special because when you speak to your everyday person for one is not critically thinking. And so they're missing a lot. But when you're able to just take skills or have skills to just look at what's happening before you and learning what's different and making and creating a process in an industry more than one time. Tell us, what are those things that you do and how do you make that happen?
Excellent observation. First of all, it takes a lot of practice. So don't beat yourself up if you don't get this right away. But I'm going to teach you. Is it okay if I give him a little master class here while we're speaking?
Yes.
Thank you. Thank you. It starts with the type of questions you ask. So very quickly, a lot of people know open-ended questions and closed-ended questions. Okay, pretty straightforward. Open-ended questions are for conversation. Closed-ended questions are for confirmation, right? Those are the next layer. And this is something to cover if you ever join me for one of my Better Questions workshops, is context questions or concrete questions. Concrete questions are very obvious. That's your job application, your credit card application, right? What's your name, date of birth, address? Those are concrete because they change or at least very rarely. They change almost never or very rarely. And we get stuck asking those questions and starts to feel like an interview or even worse, an interrogation. Here's where you can start to ask better questions, where you can transform your life, business, or career today. And you want to get in the habit of asking context questions. Those can be open-ended or closed-ended, but they all have a very similar underlying curiosity of why. So think about when I created my sales training for car lot, and a better salesman than me, but he's selling less than I am. So then I go and I sell security to home and business. I say, well, how can I make this decision to work with me as easy as possible? I go lead as outside sales team, and I ask, well, how can I help each one of these do the least amount of work and get the highest results? And when you start to ask questions like that, and you ask another question and another question, I'll quote my good friend Bill McCleskey, the questions become the answer. Because then I asked myself, let's go back to the beginning. So why is he a better sales professional than me? He sells less than me. Well, how many cars is he selling? Okay. Well, how many people did he talk to get to those cars? And how many hours or days did it take him to talk to those people? Okay. Now we find a process underneath those questions that we can duplicate and scale. And performing stores in the region, I don't like to take all the credit, but I'll take some of the credit because we reinforce following the process.
Wow.
That's it. Questions.
Mhm. So, what do you enjoy most about teaching professionals new skills?
I enjoy the moment they get it. And I enjoy most when they apply it. Because then they come back and they say, Bruce, it works. One of my favorite success stories, she worked with me and she had her first 5-figure week. And then she started having weeks that were better than any month she had in her business. It's not magic. I just asked a bunch of questions. We didn't have to download any software. We didn't have to hire a bunch of VAs. All great things to do when you're ready. But we just asked better questions. And she was able to scale. She was able to raise prices. She was able to hear you more often. That's so satisfying to me. And that's why, even though we offer a wide range of professional development from DISC to leadership and more, I think sales has been the most rewarding because you can really measure the outcome. You're like, oh, yeah, this works. How do you know? Well, here's the dollar sign right here.
Um,
Win.
so, how do you adapt your training methods to different industries?
That's an excellent question. So I work with professional service businesses um, primarily. While almost any industry can benefit a little bit, I really try and work with those folks that can benefit the most. You'll notice those are folks that have especially, and often their service is intangible, right? So I don't do as well with e-commerce or retail. Respectfully, I could definitely we could do some communication training, maybe some customer training, service training. We talk about. I love working with the financial industry. Life, I've got some great trainings that I've done for life insurance teams. Who else? Speakers, coaches, consultants. That's where we can really make time. That's where our trainings, the book, Better Questions, Better Clients, those are really going to see the highest value. Does that answer your question thoroughly?
Yes, sir, it does. It does. Um, what role does mentorship play in your work as an educator?
Oh man, never trust a coach that doesn't have a coach.
Oh, really?
I believe given enough time, energy, and effort, you could figure out anything. If
Mhm.
I gave you enough time and you had enough energy and maybe a couple dollars, you could figure it out. Do that. Why would I figure out something that someone else has already figured out? What merit does it have? What prize do you win? So a mentor, I don't believe it's a shortcut, it's a fast track.
Mhm.
So let's say I'm sitting here in Atlanta, Georgia. If I go east long enough, I'll end up in Los Angeles. But I have to go several tens of thousands of miles around the world to get there. Or I could just go west and I get there in about 4 hours by plane. So do I want to take 4 days or do I want to take 4 hours? In a mentor. And so that's one of the reasons it accelerates my success is I hang around people smarter than me. I hang around people farther than me. And that's never competition. That's always to my benefit. Because guess what? I go and pour that into my clients.
How do you measure success in your training programs?
That's going to be set by the client, but it's twofold. Do we have higher clarity or some level of progress? My favorite metrics is dollars increase, right? Either higher conversion or overall dollars cash collected. Um, Sometimes when I build SOPs, for example, you're not going to see dollars right away. So The measuring progress has to be clear between the client's expectation and then the outcome that we can provide. So if you can say, hey, we're going to accomplish 1, 2, and 3, and you can write it down, that's real subtle. Hold on, I'll say it again. You have to be able to write it down. If you can't track it, you can't change it. So measurable progress, that could be SOPs, that could be decreased call time, that could be higher call to appointment conversion, or appointment to demo, or demo to close conversion, right? Those are where we track, and it's going to change from client to client, but we have to make sure there's something measurable and not just dollars. That's a good one. Vacation.
Yeah. Now, as you just said that last part, I find that there are an enormous amount of entrepreneurs or businesses that like to measure the success from the monetary perspective. And as you
Mhm.
as you mentioned, that's not, in my opinion. And so you just tell me how you feel about this, but this is my opinion. I think that when people
Mhm.
start to do that, and if you're always just looking for that buck, you know, and it's I got the dollars, I got the dollars, I got the dollars. You may
Mhm.
get the dollars at this point, but what happens when you start losing the dollars because you're not giving quality?
Yep. So, see, you uncovered a really big problem we run into. There's quite, and that's why if you listen closely to what you read in Better Questions, Better Clients, it's how to attract and keep. Okay, how do you attract and keep clients? Now, one of my favorite examples, he was real honest about this. They did $1 million in a day,
Mhm,
but they spent $1.2 million on ads
mhm,
over the period of time.
mhm,
Now, there, he said, listen, professionals make money on the back end, amateurs only make it on the front end. Over the year, he walked us through a plan to convert those, and the target was in revenue. So he said, if you stopped, you just looked at this snapshot, said, man, we made $1 million, but you spent 1.2. That's a loss.
exactly.
But if we zoom out, would you spend 1.2 to make 20? Absolutely. That's good math. So I think there has to be some dollar measure to it, but that's not the only measurement, and sometimes not even the most important measurement. I agree with you. I think your opinion is spot on.
So, what's the most rewarding feedback you've received from a student or trainee?
Mm, man, I have to pull up some testimonies. I have some good ones out there. I put one in the cover of my book. Um, do I want to do it? I think I will. I want to read this one. If you'll give me 4 seconds. I appreciate you. A little unorthodox, but I make sure my books are never too far away. So it's a copy of Better Questions, Better Clients. And I want to thank Jimerson. Um, he said, super salute to Bruce. Before attending his workshop, I left a lot of deals on the table. After attending his workshop, Bruce armed me with better questions to ask, and now I have the confidence needed. That's different. Really nice. You're like, oh, we helped him make all this money. We helped him hire and scale. But he's like, he gave me confidence. That one, and that's why it's in the cover of the book. So shout out to Rafael, founder of Stamper Signings. If you need something notarized anywhere in the U.S., that's your guy. That one really hits me here, because now we're talking about one new skill truly is changing lives.
Wow. So, how do you keep your teaching methods fresh and relevant?
I love this question because I was arguing with someone, and they said, "Man, I've been doing this since 1990." And I said, "Man, iPhone wasn't even out in 1990. You know, internet was 56 kilobytes per second, dial-up modems. We have AI. That's not a flex. I wouldn't brag about that, respectfully." What's really important is, I think I said it earlier, is to continue growing, right?
Mhm.
So the reason the trainings are fresh is because I know more than I did last year, and I've done more than I did last year, and I've solved bigger problems. And now a new year rolls up, I have a new perspective.
Mhm.
If you do the same thing, train us and others, that's where we keep it fresh. It's going to be my growth. It's feedback from clients. Hey, what do you think is missing? And I love that question because you'll see their mind turning and they say, well, it would be really nice if you had covered XYZ. And we'll go evaluate that and say, hey, is this in alignment with our current set of trainings? If it is, we'll add it. If not, we'll outsource it. Right? We'll recommend someone. But never getting so comfortable or even arrogant. We'll say, oh, this is the way I've always done it. You'll never hear me say that.
What challenges do educators face in today's fast changing business world?
Yeah, that's been one I've been asking over and over again because I'm telling you to invest in yourself as a person in a world that's being increasingly driven by AI. Um, I don't believe education can keep up with how fast the world is changing. I'm not sure if that's possible. So I have to say, well, how do I teach people to keep up with the changes? And I hope that my belief is that will empower the individual to create their own level of success, no matter where they are, where they want to go. So the challenge in keeping up with changes is one, chasing fads, two, never having any strong enough grasp on anything to get good at it, and three, diluting your conversation. So the workaround, or I should say the solution that I've come up with is to say, look, the only thing that I can control is teaching individuals, teams, and companies as a whole valuable, life-changing, business-changing skills. So now, no matter what the world throws at them, they're equipped to either attack it or adjust. And those are two very valuable. That's the only way. If you grow your people, you grow the business. If I teach you to ask better questions, you're going to hire better. We can get investors. We can close more deals. But here's what they call law of unexpected consequences. If I teach you to ask better questions, you're going to have better conversations with your partner, with your spouse, with your siblings, with your parents, with your kids. Now we have a better relationship with our family. We're going to have better interpersonal relationships. Our network grows, and it can be just from that one skill of actions. And I use that example because that's where I'm focused, but it applies to so many other areas in your life. That's the only way to keep up, I think, is to give people the soft skills and the tools to make those adjustments.
So let me ask you this because, as you mentioned, like with it being ever changing and how the world is changing and evolving every minute, every second, and so forth. To think about the new tools that are there, such as like the AI, or if you've got this new and improved software that does what it does. I mean, what do you think would be the issue? If you've got these new and improved things that are happening, but instead of like just letting them go by the wayside, what wouldn't it be better to like try to enhance in learning what this is? Because it's very possible that all of these things are going to be mainstays regardless. So if you're learning how
Mhm.
to use these tools, these are tools just like what you do. You just insert them into the places where they go and you just grow from there. Is that possible?
So you're asking, let's use AI for example. One of the questions I don't think enough people ask is how does it work? Okay.
Hmm.
And then you ask it again. Well, how does the people that make it work get it to work? And you can keep going long enough, you'll find one of the biggest challenges they're having with AI right now is people that can pour concrete for the data centers and cooling them.
Mhm.
So now all of a sudden, concrete is helping us with AI. I think there's still lots of space and opportunity. While jobs may be eliminated, there's going to be others created and opportunities are going to be created. So you have to be careful not to learn something, apply something just because it's popular in this decade, right? It's AI. Um, it's like putting tassels on a bicycle or baseball cards in the spokes, right? They sound cool, maybe you feel like you're faster, but you're still going the same speed. So what tools that are actually impacting our goals and our success, and asking those questions is going to help us make better decisions on how to use these tools, or if we even should use these tools for whatever sector you're in.
So, how do you balance theory with practical application in your training?
I try not to put too much theory in my training, because I need you to be able to go apply it. I
Mhm.
use When I do two things. It'll usually be a free session, and I'll just ask for feedback at the end, or it'll be an experiment on my own, and I'll go test it first before I go teach it. Hey, I tried this. This is what happened. So the theory really should be for experimentation, not for teaching. Right? Save theory for the classroom. For me, we do workshops. You can take what you learn and apply it the same day, and it's going to help you as soon as the next day.
So, how much philosophy do you put into your trainings?
How much philosophy do I put into my training? I don't know if I've been asked that question either. I would I would say that there's this underlying foundation of philosophy, right?
Mhm.
Because we have to change how we think about ourselves before we can change how we think about the world. And then once we change how we think about the world, we can change how we think about problems. And that transforms how we approach solutions. Now it's changed all of. So the philosophy is it will change your life. Where you're like, well, which skills and what change do I want in my life? And now we're starting to have more intentional conversation, training, and action. Again, whether it's your family life, your career, or your business. So we have to be on the same page. Like, do you believe you can evolve and be successful? If you don't have that philosophy, yes, I do believe one new skill will change my life. Then I probably won't be a very good help to you.
Mhm. Oh,
So
wow.
it's got to. So I'm glad you asked that question. It's throughout the whole thing, but it's backed with actionable steps. Right? We're not
Mhm.
just sitting there thinking all day. Okay, here's how we take this philosophy. How do we apply it to our life, our business? Yeah, great question. That's good. That's a good one.
What's one skill you believe every professional should master?
Mm, I was afraid. I was afraid you'd ask me this one because you're like, okay, they're gonna ask you what skill. Um, there's five that I focus on.
Mhm.
The first is discipline. Yeah, discipline is a skill. Leadership. I would say communication. I put curiosity under there and sales skills. I'd probably say curiosity. I'd probably say, and again, it comes back to asking better questions. Even if you don't feel very curious, if you just train yourself and ask questions, you really can change so much of your life in such a dramatic way. Um, Without spending a bunch of money, without going back to school, without moving to a new state or country, if you can just learn to be curious, to ask better questions, every dimension of your life, from what you eat, how you sleep, to your relationships, to business and beyond, is going to be impacted for the better. So those are five that I really challenge and encourage everyone to practice. But you say, okay, you can only pick one. It's going to be curiosity. It's going to be asking better questions.
Mm. And so, can you just tell us why curiosity?
It's there's one of my favorite books is Think and Grow Rich. Whether you like it, love it, or if you've never read it, it has these 13 steps towards riches. And questions is desire. But in that chapter, he talks about having a clear picture and timeline of what it is you want. So the very obvious question is, what do I want? What do I look like? What does it look like? And that's a very subtle level of curiosity. A lot of people aren't as successful as they want to be because they don't know what success looks like for them. Okay. One of my childhood stories, Alice is in Wonderland. She reaches a fork in the road and she says, which way should I go? And she hears a voice in the tree. It's the Cheshire Cat. The cat's like, well, where do you want to end up? And so she's taken aback, right? Just talking cat in the tree. She says, well, I don't know. I guess it doesn't matter where I end up. So the cat says, well, then it doesn't matter which way you go. And so curiosity, I'm sorry, yeah, let me pause there. It doesn't matter which way you go. So curiosity impacts your life on a very fundamental decision making. Why am I even getting out of bed this morning? You just ask yourself, where do you want to go? You say, I want to be successful. What does success look like? I want to go. I want to visit other countries. What are you going to do when you get to those countries? I want to try some new foods. Okay. Well, what do today to get one step closer to traveling to other countries and visiting the world? Well, sure. I need a passport. Okay. Well, how much is a passport? And you just ask these questions. So, okay, a passport's X number of dollars. Yeah, I got to fill this out. And so you take the first step, man. Okay, what's next? Oh, I got to get a plane ticket. Okay, get a plane ticket. I need some money. How do I get some money? You got to add value. Where am I going to add value? Now we started a business. So now people are like, wait, how'd you end up so successful? I don't know. I just kept asking questions and here I am, right? I visited 4 countries just this year and I was paid to be in 2 of them. How'd you get here? I was curious. I just asked questions and the questions are the answer. So I truly believe if you can just teach yourself to do that, man, you'll figure everything else out.
Bruce, I want you to tell us, what is your motivation and what is your why?
Oh man, I ran out of motivation years ago. I'm all out of motivation, man. I ain't got nothing extra, nothing to share with you. Why? I want to see how good it can get. It's curiosity. I want to see how good it can get. I know what happens if I don't do anything. I know what happens if I give up. I've seen it. I've talked to those people. I visited them. I've been to their funeral.
Okay.
What happens if you keep going? What happens if you're successful? And I'll tell you what, I want to be able to call my parents up and be like, hey, let's go on a trip. I got it. And I want to be able to hire my siblings. If it's like, man, I need a job. What do I do? I was like, I got a job for it. I got 3 jobs. Pick one. I want to be able to visit another country and stay there for as long as I want without interrupting how much I make, interrupting how much I value. Beautiful life to live. It's my curiosity is, well, how quickly can I get there? And so I don't want to just get there alone. I want to take the people I care about with me and want to say thank you for how much they've poured into me over these years. So when I don't feel like it, which is most times, that's
Okay. Let's talk a little bit about your work as an author. You've written 4 books. What inspired you to become an author?
I didn't even want to become an author. I'm really starting to see a theme. I didn't mean to become an entrepreneur. I didn't mean to become an author. My buddy was like, man, I should write a book. And I was like, dude, you should write a book. Do it. And like a year goes by. And he's like, man, I've been thinking about writing a book. I was like, oh man, you've lived a great life. I've been here for half of it. Like, you should write it. A year goes by. And he's like, man, I should write a book. And I was like, dude, just write the book. It's easy. He's like, how do you know? You've never written a book. was like, it can't be that hard. And the smartest thing I did, shout out to Turia Vision about Book Rich Profits Club. She helped me in 3 days.
Wow.
The hardest part of writing a book is clarity. Writing a book is easy. I think if you sat down at the keyboard and started typing, but having a clarity to put which words in what order, that's the hard part. So anyway, Book Rich Profits Club helped me get description, get it edited, formatted, published. Boom, first book. It's 8 steps to sales success. And I still sell some copies from time to time. But I didn't write that book for me, for my friend to say, hey, it's possible. And I asked myself a question, because better questions get better answers. I said, well, what should I write about that I know about? I'm not gonna make nothing up that's gonna add to those people. I said, well, I know a little bit about sales, so I'm gonna share a little bit about sales. And that's how the first book was done.
So for you, can you tell us, how does writing differ from speaking?
It doesn't. The best speakers help you change what you do, think, or feel. They take an organized series of ideas to guide you to a transformation. The best authors change what you do, think, or feel, and take an organized series of ideas and guide you through a transformation. The only difference is the medium. So a lot of people are like, well, I'm not really a speaker. If you've ever shared a toast at a wedding, you're a speaker. Les Brown says, if you just take those words and write them down, you're a published speaker. So I really encourage people not to separate those two. This is communication. It's just say, how do you want to transmit this information? How do you want to transmit this story? Some people are really great. And so I think there's some longevity, but I just do both. Don't choose. Do both. Abundance.
What was the process behind your latest book, Better Questions, Better Clients?
Oh, another great question. So I realize most people don't need sales training. So there's two questions that pop in your head. You're like, well, why not? And then what do they need? Most people need clarity, whether that's career or business. And so I said, how a framework that lets people achieve. And so I created the Better Question framework. And I said, okay, what's the best way to transmit these ideas, to share these ideas? How can I share with the most people in the least amount of time, at least amount of effort on my part? Well, it ends up being a book. So, okay, book number 4 is loading. I wrote the first one on my own. I had 2 collaboration projects. This is my 4th book, my second solo project. And so I said, okay, what is the outcome, purpose, transformation, and end result of someone that reads this book? They'll be able to design a process for their business that lets them get more of the clients they want to keep. So great. We've got our end in mind. Let's take the steps to get there. So it really is. If you just read through it, it's just step by step by step. Page 85, we talk about turning conversations into clients. And it's just 5 simple steps to start with a conversation and end with a client. I used it today. She said, yes, I'm waiting for the invoice sign, right? So now that goes practicing what I preach. So I just took that from my lifetime experiences and put it into this book, Better Questions, Better Clients. This one took a lot longer to write than the first one. I interviewed over 40 people from 5 different countries, which shout out to the contributors. They're thanked in the front pages of the book. I tested the frameworks to make sure they worked. I had focus groups where I asked them, hey, does this make sense? I got feedback. I'm really proud of the project. but more important, um, I'm really proud of the transformation it's providing for people that read it.
Let's talk a little bit about your work as a consultant. How did you
Mhm.
begin consulting with tech startups and professional service firms?
Man, I'm always my first client. So I was with a tech startup and I did poorly. Okay, and I'm always very transparent about that. Um, we were trying to break. It was a UK based company. They're trying to break into the US, and I didn't know what I didn't know. So I didn't do too well there. Fast forward, got another chance, another UK based company breaking in the US. So I took all the things I did wrong there and I just did the opposite. And when we actually had a successful exit, and so I documented, I said, what did I do there that I can duplicate and share? And that's where I became that question is where I became a consultant. What is the duplicatables and what's the mistakes to avoid? Once you can answer both of those questions, then I have confidence in going and helping other people achieve success. Here's something really subtle about what I just said is both those questions. When people get it right the first time, they can't help you when something goes wrong because it's never gone wrong for them before.
Right.
They're like, oh, well, you just didn't do it right. So one of the things I really pride myself as a coach and consultant is I've done it wrong more times than some people have tried, and I've gotten it right. And so I can help guide you more efficiently, effectively, and smoothly because of that variety of success.
So, what is the essence of your proprietary 4P framework?
Oh, I love it. Okay. It's so simple. I remember writing and I felt guilty. I was like, man, this can't be this easy. Um, we're gonna ask questions people around around the process and the pricing. People, we ask ourselves a simple question: who can we serve with excellence? The promise is something I see missed over and over again. They tell us what your coach, international speaker, 4 times author, but they don't say why. What's the transformation and result of the outcome from working with you? That's the promise. The process is those are the steps we're going to take to get you there. And that helps us predict the future. That's how we are able to charge. Because I know if you follow the steps, you're going to get results. How much is up to you. And then the pricing. How do we price it so it makes sense for the business, right? We don't want to go out of business. We're giving things away. How does it make sense for the business? It makes sense to our future customers. So it's got to be easy to understand, but it's also got to be accessible to the people we're looking to serve. So we have a people, we have a promise, we have a process and pricing. That's it. But those questions will absolutely transform your business. This year will be in pale in comparison to the next year.
So, how do you help businesses improve customer retention?
It starts with the very first question is who can we serve with excellence? And there's like I think I said it earlier, right? I don't work with retail, I don't work with e-commerce. Some of the personal development could be useful to the founders, but when we talk about driving business, who I serve with excellence are people leaders of professional service businesses. Why does that matter? Because I can serve them with excellence, they get the results they're looking for. So now, guess what? They're leaving, they're sending referrals. They're saying, hey, can we come back and work with you again? So now I'm not begging people to say, like, oh, we'll give you a discount if you renew. People are happy to work with me. And it starts with that first question because I don't want to serve people good, right? Part of my grammar. I don't want to serve them good. I don't want to serve them great. I'm difference. That's a subtle difference, but I promise you the ROI, the lifetime customer value is going to be.
When we chatted, when we set up this appointment for you to come and be a guest on the show, I mentioned to you that we do Black History 365, and I asked
That's why I'm
you,
here.
I said, in Black history, who is the most influential person or persons in your life or career? You said
Mhm.
you are. You said self. Now, Can you tell us, because that's unique, and I'm like really anticipating this because I've never heard that before, but I love that because you are setting precedents anyway. So can you tell us, why are you your most influential person in Black history?
Questions, and I say that with arrogance and humility. Um, the humility is that I have a responsibility to change the world, and the
Mhm.
arrogance is I have the ability to change the world, and I already have, and I continue to do that every day because I'm growing people. We're growing businesses. We're feeding families. We're creating opportunities. We're building wealth. We're changing the lives and legacy of every individual I come in contact with. So I take that very humbly as a responsibility, like something I'm motivated to do. It's my duty, it's my obligation, it's necessary. But I also have the
Yeah.
my manic it's going to be bigger and better, right? Just not just my family line, but the families of everyone I work with and come in contact with. So when I say that, yes, it's arrogant because it's a big response, but I accept that responsibility with utmost humility. I can't wait for someone else to create the future I want. I can't expect someone else to be the leader that I need. I have to do it. And I have to help as many other people, empower them to be able to do it. I have to create as many leaders as possible, so that I'm not here by myself. That's where I'm not trying to be the most important person to walk the earth or the most famous person. I want to be the most impactful person.
Mhm. I love that. I love that. And it's always great to be confident and feel secure within yourself, which you more than exemplify that. And I don't think that is arrogant at all. If you want to know the truth, that's from my perspective, my opinion. I don't think it's arrogant. I think what it does and what you're displaying is that the natural innate ability that you have to create impact and make change. And in that whole process, you are doing this from within. So it's rather you come when you come across these people, shall I say, it sounds like what you're saying is, your intentions are to be impactful, but also to make that change that's everlasting, that you're instilling something in them, just like, and I don't mean this to sound this way because, those folks that are holy religious will probably get upset, but it's basically like, when Jesus walked the earth, it's the things that he did where he was impactful like that. And so I don't see anything wrong with that. I think that makes a whole bunch of sense. And I think that, it takes confidence to actually sit here and say that because that's what you believe and that's what we support. So I just want you to know that.
Thank you.
So can you tell us, how has what you do shaped your philosophy and approach to work? This is when it comes to Black history.
Yeah, absolutely. There is, man, that's really a whole nother hour. To be succinct, we have a lot of things that we cannot control or change. A lot of things that we weren't responsible for, that we are responsible for the consequences. And that's a very difficult position to be in. However, I believe we have a much more power to change today and tomorrow than we give ourselves permission to access and to utilize.
Mhm.
And so I can't change the past, but I can absolutely change the future. And so what I do is so important because again, I want you to get a career where you're making enough where you only have to work one job, right? Fancy that crazy idea. I would love for you one job to be more than enough to cover your bills and have a little extra to save and invest. If that has to be your business, then let's be a business that can hire people. That's where we communities
Mhm.
where of the clients and the revenue and the processes again, because it comes back to processes where we can bring on team members that look like us. So now we're not complaining about, oh, well, the C suite is only X percentage of this person or gender. What are you going to do about it? I can't tell Pepsi who to hire. I can't tell Coca-Cola to who to hire. Um, hire people. And I think that's a very subtle shift in thinking. And so, well, let's just do it ourselves.
Mm, I like that. What lessons from Black history inspire your leadership style?
If you look at any leader, any time period, again, I told you, what was it? Discipline, leadership was the second one. Communication was the third. Curiosity and sales. Out of a hat, doesn't matter because it's still going to apply to them. Was their ability to communicate, and then we define leadership as your ability to influence others, hand in hand with communication. So what's inspired me is say, hey, to be a better leader, I need first lead myself, and then I need to be able to communicate effectively. No leader was successful on his or her own. They had the people around them, and they took care of the people around them. The people around where the momentum was really built. Yes, they may be the front runner or the face of any given movement or event, but their ability to lead and communication is what helped make that successful. So bring that to the present. The lesson I learned is leadership is a skill we have to invest in, not just as a whole, as a community. And that's where communication continues to be a big part of my trainings. Again, so we can have this exponential impact on the lives around us in the future before us.
So, how do you integrate these lessons into your teachings and consulting?
Um, I don't think I have to integrate them. It is what I teach. It is what I consult on. I work with businesses, founders from every nationality, with from the UK, from the US, white, black. Um, the fundamental philosophy still is one new skill will change your life, and so teaching leadership, teaching communication, helping businesses grow, so we can hire people in our communities is what we do on a day to day. So it doesn't have to be integrated. It is what we do.
So, what parallels do you see between their struggles and today's challenges?
Some are the same. Some have changed. I think the big one I see is community. I've used that word a few times now. Shout out to the Russell Innovation Center for Entrepreneurship here in Atlanta, and shout out to the Gathering Spot. We start to see communities starting to build again. That's a big one. There's so much, particularly in the country. I live in the U.S. where we have this very like lone cowboy philosophy, and there's no way to build a future family. That's the same problem then that I see we need to address now. Again, something completely within our control. A is access to opportunities. Jay Bailey's, he has a quote. He says, "We're creating uncommon access." That's a new problem where that gap. Think of redlining when we talk about home ownership, but that gap to wealth is more clear and somehow less accessible than it was 20, 30, 40 years ago.
So, when it comes to Black history, how do you honor uh, contributions of his of people in the past in your work today?
That's something, an area for improvement. for me, remembering their stories, reading their stories, sharing their stories has been a big part of honoring that. Um, and questioning, it goes back to better questions again, and questioning, hey, is what we were taught accurate? Is it the complete story? Things like I was doing some research on the motor vehicle industry. Some of the first cars were produced, created by black men.
It was.
I didn't know. Who no one
Yes.
taught me that. And so going and looking for those stories that maybe aren't quite the forefront has been part of for me. There's more we doing that.
Well, I'm sure that there's going to be several more stories to find out about that because remember, as you just mentioned, uh, you know, the Model T, Henry Ford should not have taken credit for that, but he did.
Mhm. Only thing I give him credit for is mass production. People act like he invented, but that's another
Right.
conversation for another day. We'll be here. We'll be here for a while.
What do you believe is the most misunderstood aspect of the historians of the past, their legacy? What do you think is the most misunderstood aspect of their legacy?
Misunderstood. I don't know. Perhaps there are some misunderstanding that would come from this. I think Dr. Dennis Kimball did a great job in Think You Go Rich, a Black Choice, is telling the stories and then telling them from a different angle. Sometimes we hear stories from just one angle,
Mhm.
and it could be true, but it's not a. And that's where I like to look at stories from multiple angles, because let's use our good friend Martin Luther King Jr., right?
Mhm.
There are people here in Atlanta that, right? And so, okay, well, why is that? And what lessons can we learn from that? There's people we haven't heard of very close to them, like Abernathy,
Mhm.
and folks on the construction companies that help build Hartsfield Jackson Airport, right? There's pieces of history that intertwine with the lessons we hear, the more popular lessons, but that are fundamental. Shout out to the men of Phi Beta Sigma Fraternity Incorporated, right? How they supported the civil rights movement. But you might not hear about those stories. You got to go look for those stories. So I won't call them misunderstanding, miss shouldn't be had.
So, how do you encourage others to learn from Black history?
I think you got to start with being the example.
Mhm.
Um, I'm seeing this generation behind me, they're less interested in the past. And that's very fascinating to me. I will give them credit. They take a lot less BS in the present job being mistreated for 40 years because of security. They will leave, and I do respect them for that. They talk out against injustice, and I'm really optimistic about our future with them. One concern I have is they don't look backwards as much. So you and I, right? I might listen to my parents' music, and I still do. You might listen to your parents' music. This generation listens to music 10 years ago, and that's it. And then, so I'm concerned that when you talk about history, even the last 50 years has to be told, has to be shared. Um, Shout out to Russell Center again. There's a mural these faces, and I'm ashamed to admit I didn't know a lot of them, but I'm proud to say that I went and I looked them up. That's I think that curiosity in action.
How has Black history influenced your writing and speaking?
It makes me a lot more bold and a lot more unapologetic. It also made me realize that you don't have to doesn't look like you. Now, look, wrong is wrong no matter who's doing it. But my point is, the goal isn't to divide a group of people. It really is uniting a group of people.
Mhm.
And so that shifted how I write, where we want to be as a collective. I'll use community again, moving forward as a whole. I don't want one or two people to achieve this massive success. How can more and more people achieve massive success? And so I think looking backwards and bringing that forward was very few of these monumental moments happened by one single person. They may have been a catalyst, but they weren't alone. And that's something I try to remember even as I build my business to say, okay, how can I bring people with me who's going to come along on this journey with me?
Mhm. Final question for you. If you could speak directly to yourself when we're talking about Black history, since you're the most influential person in your
Mhm.
life, what would you say to yourself?
I'd really challenge myself to be more aggressive. I really challenge myself to be more aggressive. I don't think that it's going to be easy, but I believe it's possible. And success does not happen on accident. So the faster we can change more minds, we can change more lives. We can. So the question, one of my favorite questions, he says, "Well, how can I get to success more quickly so I can enjoy it longer?" And I really don't want, although I'd be honored to say, 100 years from now, the actions I did help change the world in a positive way. I'd love to be around to see that 10 years from now or 20 years from now. Uh,
Mhm.
so the question becomes, hey, what are you going to do about it today? And being more aggressive and saying, hey, what you're doing is changing the world. So go tell more people. I listen, if we could help not even every, if we could just help 1,000 Black businesses make 100,000 more dollars, do you realize the economic impact? Even if we just helped 1,000 Black businesses do 10,000 more dollars, we're creating millions in revenue. That's salaries, that's investments, that's homes. So I want everyone to succeed, but at the end of the day, I'm rooting for everybody Black.
Well, I'll tell you this. Well, let me just continue on here with some words of wisdom and encouragement. Do you have any of those for our audience in closing, and how they can connect with you via social media, your website, the things that you're doing? Do you have any of that you can share with us here in closing?
I think the first thing I'll say, especially any folks, maybe Native American, white, Chinese, Spanish, whichever country, Mexico, South American, Canadian, I need you all to realize that while I speak from my experience as African American, as Black American, I need you all to realize being able to control your financial destiny gives you a louder voice in this world. And so when I tell you one new skill will change your life, it's not a fridge magnet quote. It's not a bumper sticker quote. It is a philosophy you leverage as this world continues to change. So we don't have these conversations to exclude anyone. We are talking to the people closest to us. And so to the folks that look like me, I want to give you permission and say, hey, listen, there's a lot of things that make your life a little bit more difficult, your experience a little bit more challenging. However, you have the power to transform the future. You have the ability to change the outcome. And that starts with asking better questions. So to anyone listening, if there's one thing you can take away, one new skill will change your life. And the skill I am recommending to everyone starts with this curiosity, asking better questions. Not just for you, for the people around you, for the people you care about, haven't even been born yet. Better questions get better answers.
Well, I definitely appreciate you for taking the time to be here with us this evening. This was truly, truly Great show. And it's one where I can honestly say that for those that know how to listen and how to look, will understand one thing. You are about as analytical of a person that I've seen in a long time. And it's refreshing because the perspectives are that much more detailed, but also that much more thought provocative that makes us our better selves. So I appreciate you for that.
Thank
And
you,
I
sir.
hope that as people are just in going through their everyday lives, that you guys take a lot of this information that Bruce has given out, and you should try to not just learn it, but to apply it. Because just as he says, I believe in just taking some of these steps are things that can not only help you personally, but especially from a business perspective. These are things that are bound to be more than just enhancing, but successful. I want to thank all of you for watching us tonight. Um, we will, as you know, our shows are Monday through Thursday. That's 6 p.m. to 7:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. We will be back again tomorrow night for another great show here on American Black and White, where we will continue to color conversations on the canvas of America. And I hope to see you guys tomorrow night because, again, it'll be another impactful and powerful show. I want to thank you, Bruce, and I'll definitely be reaching out to you because I definitely think that there are a lot of things that I think that we need to think about doing some things to impact our communities together, and I definitely would love to just chop it up with you and see if we could do something like that.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Oh, listen, if you want to learn more, it's easy to find me. It's New Skills, New You everywhere. Fan base, Instagram, YouTube, LinkedIn. Just if you type in New Skills, New You, it'll pop up here. It's best for you. If you want to grab a copy of the book, you can visit askingbetterquestions.com, askingbetterquestions, plural.com. We thank you for your support and for your presence and participation in this podcast.
Thank you all. You all have a great evening, and please come back and see us tomorrow. Uh, you guys have a wonderful evening and good night.
Thank you so much.
Yes, sir.